Against all the odds, Newcastle, for me, have taken control again of their own destiny, and they look like they are really in the hunt now for European football. And I'm not just talking about Europa or Europa Conference League, but maybe they might break. Can you believe it, at this stage of the season, into the top 5? We've been covering Newcastle quite a lot this season, and Tottenham, who faced off this weekend. And you know what I think is going to turn out to be a real 6-pointer in the chase, in the race for Champions League football. Eddie Howe's men have had to bob and weave through a horrendous injury crisis this season that Tottenham themselves were on the receiving end themselves earlier this year. And this was a game that both teams really fighting at the top of the table. High quality players on display, and both teams love to attack, love to go for a goal. It was entertaining, it was special. Newcastle, as you know, won the game by 4-0. But in the video today, we're going to have a look at exactly what this game showed us about both teams and what it tells us between now and the end of the season for that race for the Champions League. Who is going to make it? Are Tottenham going to hang on by the skin of their teeth, or are Newcastle going to gate crash the party at the end of the season and finish what would be, for me, a hugely successful season for Eddie Howe and the Toon Army at any point in the video today? If you do, laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and get into the comment section and let me know what your big winners and losers, your big takeaways were from the game at the weekend, Newcastle versus Tottenham. And yeah, let's just get stuck straight into it. Now, Newcastle all season, no matter what the situation at home, have been nobody's fool. They've been taking apart teams all season long, domestically and in Europe. And Tottenham, away from home, sit 5th in the table in terms of how good they've been this season, but their record is very non-distinct. You know, they've been useful away from home without being, you know, like distinctly amazing, as it were. So this was a game that I thought from the off was going to be quite open end to end and could have went really either way, because typically what we see from Newcastle and Eddie Howe is plan A, plan A, and plan A. But this game, that didn't really happen, actually, you know, and we heard it in the post-match comments from some of the players and the staff as well. But this was not a typical Newcastle performance. The midfield, the back four, of course, doesn't look typical. But when you see that kind of makeup into the game, you think you know what you're going to be expecting, especially when you see Barnes joining in the front three here with Isak and Gordon. You think, right, okay, there might actually be the same kind of thing going again. Very strong front line, which is what has been Newcastle's real secret sauce, as it were. And really, if this was just a back four, as it were, I think we would have seen a lot more danger, a lot more incisive actions from the likes of Son, Brennan Johnson, Timo Werner, and even some of the substitutes when they came on. Tottenham did have huge proportion of the ball. I hadn't actually looked at the statistic to right now. 73% of the possession they had in this game, and one big chance out of 11 shots really does show you that Newcastle really did stifle them. And it really, for me, in large parts of this game, didn't really feel like Newcastle were playing with a back four. To me, this really felt like more into like a back five almost, a back, you know, at times it just really did feel really compact and more like Newcastle didn't have any spaces to play in between. And when Tottenham did have possession and they were trying to come up into play, they didn't have those spaces that they wanted to run into with a lot of time and, you know, with quality supply to go and really challenge Tottenham. Dubravka only having 2 shots on target to face in this game probably is a big part for why Newcastle did get the clean sheet in the end. But really, we've never seen Newcastle so wholeheartedly commit into really defending in, because normally when we've seen Newcastle maybe like later in a match, you know, trying to hold on to a result or something, but the substitutes, this kind of thing can happen. But as I say, in different periods of the match, you know, they were very good at reading the play and just giving Tottenham absolutely nothing. Let them have the possession, let them try and build their play up, let them try and bring Udogie into the attacking third, Pedro Porro, these guys, and leave as much space in and behind for the most dangerous players in the team, Alexander Isak and Anthony Gordon. And for me, I've been a huge admirer of Anthony Gordon on this channel this season. And really, for me, he is the most unsung player in the Premier League. And this result, Isak gets a lot of the plaudits, of course, for the goals he scored, which all season long, 2 off of Haaland, as we know. He has been clinical. He has got ice in his veins. And, you know, one-on-one with any keeper, you fancy him to score more than he misses. No 2 ways about it. But Gordon, for me, if this guy's, I'll say it again, if he's from Brazil, if he's from Argentina, people are talking about this guy like he's Neymar or Messi or something like that. He can dribble by anyone in the world. He has got elite decision-making execution. We've seen him doing it against all manner of teams in the Premier League for a Newcastle team, which, you know, for the most part is quite run-of-the-mill Premier League. You know, you take Bruno out of this and the front two that we're talking about, and that team is not really much better than any other team in the league. You know, they definitely don't warrant to be pushing for the top 5, to keep it kind. And I really do think this game here, it felt like a lot of, and you see it in the goals especially, that it was more of a front two, Gordon in off the right here, with a bit of freedom to maybe cross the pitch a few times alongside Isak. And watching this game, I just got this real strong feeling of like, this is one of the best attacking combinations, one of the best attacking teams, if you like. You know, Gordon and Isak, you think about other clubs who their attacking options are. Across European football, I don't think there's that many that come into the conversation as well connected, the synergy between them, and really how the rest of the team do complement them is Isak and Gordon. You might put Almiron into the equation when he's fit, maybe Barnes, the way he's looked since he's been back in the team, because like between Barnes and Anderson, like they went everywhere in this game and they made a real big difference to what we normally see from the likes of Willock. Even when Byrne is like left back and Botman has been available, you just don't get that same, you know, tempo or energy on this side of the pitch. And I felt both of them really did make this part of the play a lot more reasonable to facilitate, because it wasn't just static defending. You know, these guys get in amongst it, turn the ball over, try and travel, maybe even play each other in on the break, or try and play Murphy. Sometimes Murphy's good for a bit of legs. But normally what I think is one of the main things that does hold Newcastle back, and we'll come on to talk about Tottenham perhaps a little bit more in a second, how they really struggled with this. But Bruno, for me, normally you find in the Newcastle match, Longstaff and Willock and these guys are in the box for great chances and they miss them and you're like, oh, I wish Bruno was there. Or they're the one on the ball trying to play the counter-attack pass and it's not quite good, goes out for a throw-in, or it's, you know, whatever, it's intercepted. But Bruno, with having Longstaff, who, you know, I'm not a big fan of Longstaff. For me, this guy's a firm 5 out of 10 Premier League player in that regard. But with Anderson being a bit more proficient in doing that box-to-box role, that 888 role that Eddie Howe and co want to see in midfield, gave Bruno a bit more license. And I actually felt that Bruno, when Newcastle did have possession, was much more of the front foot midfielder. And, you know, obviously he's got the range of passes. He can put the ball anywhere on the pitch from anywhere on the pitch. But we've seen much more of Bruno maybe breaking and leading into spaces here to play whoever the runners were, or whoever was coming in to play with him. But as I say, sometimes it's been Longstaff or it's been Willock. Anderson was fine at it. Sometimes these other guys are fine at it too. But Bruno is the guy you want on. And I always feel that he's a bit wasted in that centre midfield position, because just generally that tends to be the most defensive one, just the way the play tends to shake out. And sometimes you don't get him quite high enough, or you don't get him on the ball in effective moments enough. But I do feel that that happened time and time again. And for all the goals, it was a big part of playing it into Isak and Gordon, for them to combine, rip this Tottenham defence apart and get the goals as they did. And really, Tottenham, for all the possession they had, didn't feel like they had much of an effort in this. Fabian Schär does come out of the game grabbing a lot of headlines because he scores the goal, of course. But defensively, like for Newcastle being so blummin' thin and with ACL tears for everyone, it feels like, this was their best defensive performance, I think, probably the whole team has had this season, for how compact they were, the vast amount of chances that they limited to being really speculative or not coming to much was massive. Because normally we've seen Newcastle in this season, like, yeah, they can score goals, they can take teams apart in the counter-attack, but they will let you in for a couple of chances here and there if it is a team that do want to overcommit and do have quality. And yeah, there was some sitters missed by Tottenham. They could have done a little bit better, certainly, but, you know, Maddison, I thought he would have been taken off. I think when we seen Kulusevski come on for Son, and then Brennan Johnson initially, it went into centre forward. But see, when you see what Kulusevski brings in this role here, honestly, he should have, for me, went in for Maddison, because he's strong, he's powerful. And in this area here, like, it really did take everyone to try and contain him, and they couldn't quite a lot of the time. Kulusevski was probably Tottenham's most impactful player from where I was sitting, certainly. And I really felt, kind of earlier in the match, knowing that's how Kulusevski plays, I'd have been taking Maddison out of here and putting him in there, because it really did feel like Bissouma, Bentancur, Pape Sarr, Højbjerg, these guys, when they came on as well, they didn't give Tottenham any real muscle, any real command of, you know, I know they had the possession, but if it was going into 50-50, so it was going into a crowd, Newcastle were coming out with it most of the time and then turning the ball over and causing Tottenham all the problems that they faced. And really, like, I think if that's a call on Ange, I'm not too sure. Probably I would say it is. But I do think that Maddison, Bentancur, Bissouma, even when they've got the likes of Udogie coming in here to support them, they have to do better against a team like Newcastle if they are going to be finishing in the Champions League places. Yeah, the Tottenham team will want to spend money in the summer and go and strengthen, but As soon as you take Son out, you put in Brennan Johnson, and then later in the match, we see Werner come in centre and Brennan out on the left. It does open up a few other avenues, and maybe they could have got a goal or two, but really Newcastle were home and hosed by this time, and it was, you know, a bit of pride or a bit of damage limitation that Tottenham were after, and they couldn't really get it over the line. And, you know, when you play this kind of overload in football, where you've got fullbacks coming in to be attacking midfielders, and you've got wingers becoming second strikers and all the rest of it, you need, you know, high quality chances in the box, and then you're looking for numbers to make sure like somebody with good quality will be around to finish it and put it away. And I think you do kind of see a bit of a ceiling here on Maddison for where he's at the moment in his career, and for Son as the centrepiece here. Son, as a lot of people will tell you, quite rightly, his best position probably is out here on the left coming inside. But Ange and Tottenham's problem at the moment then, if that is the case, is then who is going to be in centre forward. Richarlison seems to be constantly fighting against injury and returning, although not being a complete Ange ball player. Although recently he has been a bit better when he was fit. Werner, Johnson, not too sure either of these guys really do hold the candle as well as Son does. So it's one of these ones that for Tottenham, we're looking at the table now. Tottenham do have that 10-point advantage over Newcastle at the moment, and with 6 games to go, you probably think, yeah, Tottenham have got this nailed on. But as we spoke about on the channel, I think all the way back in December when Tottenham were getting their title challenge potentially for a minute on the go, is this time of the season, Tottenham are going to decide the title. No two ways about it. They play all the 3 teams that are still in the mix, City, Arsenal and Liverpool. And that's a 9-point deficit. That's a 9-point swing potentially that could happen for Newcastle. They've got Man United at Old Trafford, second last game of the season. But outside of that, you've got to think the Newcastle fixture list is pretty kind to them this time of year. So really, for how many results Newcastle have been getting against the grain, it feels like since January I've been saying they cannot get to 13 losses if they want to get into European football. And they've been on 12. They were on, no, I can't remember what number it was at the time. You know, they picked up 1 or 2 losses since then. But they're at 12. And for the last, like, month, when they've been losing defenders, they're still winning matches. They're conceding less goals and they're scoring more. And again, Isak and Gordon, for me, is one of the most formidable strike partnerships in European football. When you look at Newcastle here, 69 goals scored. They've got an identical win-loss-draw record to Man United, who have scored 47 goals. When you've got an attack that powerful, that good, you're always going to be in the mix to win football matches. And with 15 wins so far, 6 games left, you've got to think Eddie Howe and Newcastle are targeting 20 wins. And if they can do something like that, then finishing 5th is not going to be out of the question here. We've seen Villa get a very famous result this weekend against Arsenal, and that puts a lot more pressure on even that 4th and 5th little place there. Aston Villa still have European football to contend with, of course, as well. So I really do feel that for Tottenham and Newcastle, this was a massive 6-point game for both of them. And Newcastle came out with this in control now for me of finishing again in the Champions League spots against all the odds. And surely that would give them the springboard, the propeller, the fuel to go into the summer transfer window and fix all of the wrongs of the last couple of transfer windows that I've been hanging them out to dry for on the channel, certainly. And then really start to realise the potential, be a consistent top 4, top 5 place team, and have that kind of special Champions League group stage campaign that maybe actually, you know, yields progression and, you know, qualification into further rounds. I hope you enjoyed this one, guys. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more content like this on screen, and now some other stuff that I've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. And yeah, stay out of trouble, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.